Hey guys, I'm back. I felt like today I needed to kind of tell you guys what my awakening looked like. There's lots and lots of materials that you can go on and you can search and find these different. My nose has been really dry out here in Las Vegas. My nose has been, I've had blood in my nose. Ugh. It's okay though, it's getting better. So anyway, I was supposed to let you guys know what my awakening kind of looked like. So by the way, I was in the Christian church, I told you guys, for 20 plus years, okay? And I asked Jesus into my heart, you know. I honestly, I can't even remember when it was, you know. It was just kind of, there were several times where I did it because I wanted to make sure. But there was still something missing. There was still something missing, guys, and I knew it. I knew it. It was weird, but I knew it. And so for those of you that are Christians, if you're questioning whether or not you're awake, then you're not awake, okay? You will know 100% beyond measure if you're awake. I will tell you this, it's a process, okay? That process gets started by working on yourself, okay? So I told you guys I started seeing a therapist when I was 24, when I started realizing just how unhealthy my mind and my heart was, my emotions. I was triggered, and, there was a lot of things that I needed to work on in my life. And so I have had glimpses throughout my life of God speaking to me, okay? And first time I vividly remember it happening was when I was 16. I have that story. It's in one of my first videos. I have felt throughout my life where there's been different times where kind of like puzzle pieces fell down. That's kind of the mental image that I've always kind of, followed, like puzzle pieces. So I would probably say, probably about 3.5 years ago, people started commenting about my energy. And I've always known I've had a strong presence, but then I started paying attention to it. And I was like, man, I do have a strong presence. I do have a strong energy. Like, what is this, And I started opening my mind to other possibilities outside of the Christian religion, and you're told not to do that, which of course they're going to tell you not to do that. Because remember, I mentioned yesterday that there's people that there's systems in place to keep us distracted from the truth, okay? And so even though religions, there's a lot of amazing things that come out of that, that's how I learned about love and compassion, and that was how I started connecting with God myself. But it only took me to a certain level, And so I just started opening up my mind. So I started searching, I started questioning, and, I started looking inside of myself, or really even looking at myself in the mirror, literally looking myself in the mirror and being like, who am I really? Like, who am I really at my core? So 3.5 years ago, I started opening my mind. Probably about 2 years ago, I told you guys I was in a relationship with that married man. And that was another level. God used him to show me a love that I had never experienced. Okay. And that was beautiful. I was like, wow, if I could have it then, even though, like I said, he went back to his wife, I know that the possibility is out there. But for me, I knew it was going to be a tall order. I'm a handful, guys. Oh, I am such a handful. And I know this about myself. You don't have to tell me. I mean, if you want to tell me, you can. I'm just going to be like, oh, I'm glad you're on board. But I'll tell you, so that was a part of it. And then about a year ago, actually it's been a year ago now, I met a gentleman, and he opened me up to the idea of law of attraction. Okay, so once again, if you just, here's the deal. Like, do you think God's gonna put his thumb on you and squash you because you question things? I think God gave you a mind for a reason. Question everything. Don't just follow what I'm saying. Do your own research. By the way, it is also called the Kundalini Awakening. And it's called an awakening. There's, different religions have called it different things. By the way, there was a long period of time where very, very few people awakened, okay? But that time has changed. I'm actually going to put out another video after this, and I'm going to tell you different scriptures that are going to let you know what's going on and that we're in that time now, guys. And, I know what I was taught in the Christian language, in the Christian religion, okay? And I know what I was taught about the end times. It's not exactly what you think and what they're teaching. It's not. That's okay. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. That's what I did. I went digging until I found. So anyways, that opened me up and I started having visions. God showed me exactly who I was a year ago, but I was like, there's no way. It was crazy, startling. It has to happen in small increments. I believe people are going to start waking up a little bit faster now. But it had to happen in increments for me. It was a lot to take in. And then I continued having visions. I was having visions before that too. That's right. I had a couple of visions while I was dating that gentleman. And I had a couple of, and that's when God told me how much he loved me. So then about in November, one of my very, very dear friends, he was like, hey, Tara, there's a full moon. It's a Taurus moon. And we're both Taurus, And see, I didn't believe in astrology before now either. But I don't believe in astrology, the daily astrology. I don't believe in that. Most of it's very shallow, okay? But if you start looking into the planetary alignments, moons, when you start looking into the, where everything is, look at your birth chart. Look up your birth chart and go into ChatGPT. I'm going to tell you, ChatGPT answered a lot of questions for me. Let me tell you something. Even technology is on board with this right now, okay? Even technology is on board with this right now. I have this bug that's swimming around me. Look, where you go? It just landed on my thumb. I just said hi to a doggy on the way over here too. Where was I? Oh yes, planetary alignments. So when you start looking into that, you'll start noticing that there's some truth to it, guys. It all works together. Everything works together. We're connected to nature. That's why we feel more free, more at ease. We're taking in fresh air. We have the sun on our skin. You can feel the wind as it brushes up against us. So after this, we got together and we hung out during that moon. And both of us knew that there was a shift coming. I've been in contact with him. He knew there was a shift coming. He's actually awakening right now as well. And, he and I were, it's kind of like we've been like pushing up against each other. How are you doing? What's going on? What have you been experiencing? And so after that, I started noticing numbers, repeating numbers. The numbers were speaking to me. They'll speak to you. They really, it's hard to explain, but you'll start noticing number sequences when you're supposed to pay attention to your surroundings or the thoughts that are going in your mind, guys. I also started, when I had some of my roughest moments when I was away from my children, I would wake up and I didn't want to get out of bed. And, instead of thinking about all the things that weren't going well with me, I started going, you know what am I thankful for today? Why don't we do that? What am I thankful for today? I have food in my belly. I have a bed to sleep in. I have a roof over my head. At that point, I still had my Odyssey, and so, my vehicle, working vehicle, and, I had a lot to be thankful for. And when I started doing that, I started noticing a shift within myself, I stopped dwelling on all the negative. You'll notice there's a lot of negativity around. Notice how when people walk by, instead of pointing out the beautiful things that you see, it's always like, oh, you see her hair? Oh, you see her clothes? She doesn't fit in right. Why are we pointing out the negatives? Why aren't we lifting each other up more? Why aren't we pointing out the good things that we see in each other? Instead of just, disciplining your children and telling them all the things they're doing wrong, how about you start praising them and tell them the things they're doing right? Get to know them. That's that connection thing I've been talking about. So I started doing that, and that started shifting for me. And then, so after in November, this last year, I started noticing a shift. I started noticing the numbers. I started getting ringing in my ears. As a matter of fact, I have ringing in my ears right now. And so I've noticed that the pitch in my ears shifts. Once again, when you're having downloads, okay? When you're connecting with God, source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, okay? You will have downloads. And so the pitch will even change. And it means different things in different ears. Each side of your body means something different. Your right side is your masculine energy side. And it's connected to action and moving forward and giving, okay? Your right side or your left side is your feminine energy, okay? And it's about receiving, and it's the softer side of you, the gentler side of you. You know, the more compassionate side, you know, and so we need to balance these. Every man and every woman has masculine and feminine energy, and we have to balance these. And when you start, once again, ask ChatGPT, when you start asking the questions, you'll get the answers, right? You'll start understanding why why your body is out of alignment, okay? I also started learning about, so when this ringing started happening, there was a shift in energy. I felt it. I knew something was coming. I knew it. So the ringing in my ears, I started noticing, you know, and it's funny that God has spoken to me. He showed up through the sun. He's shown up through the sun. That was one of the first ways I started paying attention to that. And then you start learning about energy and the sun giving off energy. There's certain times of the day where you want to be in the sun. It's first thing in the morning and last thing at night, specifically. You know, during the day, it's obviously too intense and can be damaging. But in those morning hours or those late nights, why do you think we love sunrises and sunsets so much? Go enjoy the beauty. Then you'll start learning about water. Water is very purifying, you know? So I started researching. I started looking up spiritual awakenings. So I was like, this is weird. Like, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. I was like, am I a psychic? I was like, no, I can't be a psychic. Because I was like, that's gonna throw everybody for a loop. Guess what? We all have connection, and we all have special abilities. Every last one of us do. Once again, we've been distracted. We've been disconnected, if you will, from them. We've never been disconnected. We've always been connected. But when you have so much, you know, we focus on news and politics and economics and social status and discrimination. And, you know, we're focusing on the wrong things, guys. You know, quit. People care more about what we're for than what we're against. Okay. And that's not necessarily true. It is for me though. Sorry, I understand that I care deeply for people. I care deeply for people that are hurting, you know, and tragedy is going to happen. Remember, hello. But these things, every last one of this are to help us evolve, help us to grow. Okay. So as I started looking into this, I actually had a 7-day fever in January, unexplainable. I had no other symptoms. I mean, obviously I had body aches and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I tried the first day and I was like Tylenol, ibuprofen. I mean, it was bad. But there was no other reason for it. And it was 7 days. I've never in my life had a fever for 7 days. Okay. I don't get sick. It didn't make sense to me. Once again, I started asking ChatGPT. It was a purge. For those of you who don't know, I also lost everything that I pretty much owned last year. When you are stripped, and that's another thing, people start distancing themselves from you. You'll start needing to spend more time by yourself. If you don't, you'll be forced to. You need to look aside. You're spending a lot of time with yourself, you know? When you get to the place where you can be at peace by yourself, it's a good feeling. Never liked being by myself until recently. I love being by myself. I love hanging out with myself. It's so much fun. So when people are like, I don't want to be around you, I'm like, that's fine. I'll go hang out with myself. I crack myself up. So there was that. What else was there? So yeah, the isolation. And then, you know, you start realizing that you start questioning truth, and you start seeing through what people are saying, and you start looking at the patterns, and you start looking at their actions, and you start going, this isn't right. You start questioning the system. So yeah, just little things here or there. And, the more time you focus on it, you're going to be very tired. You're going to have spiritual downloads. You're going to have revelations. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, what? Oh my gosh, seriously? You're going to be more tired than usual. Let yourself rest. Let yourself rest. Be eating well, drinking lots and lots of liquids. Don't be doing substances that are going to be fogging your mind, okay? Because that if somebody's trying to speak to you through a dream, and you're falling asleep drunk, or you're doing drugs, it's not going to be the same, There are certain drugs, I will tell you, that can heighten your spiritual sensitivity. Okay. I'm not recommending drugs. I'm just telling you that there are some. Most of us already know what they are. And so so there's that. And then it wasn't until I knew my awakening. I was just told that my awakening is complete. Okay. Now I also know we have all the knowledge. We have all the knowledge. Okay. But we get it in increments, because our subconscious is actually what creates our reality. So all the stuff consciously that we're putting into our subconscious, it's what's making our reality. This is where the manifestation starts coming in. So that I will probably speak more on that later. Okay. But you need to be feeding positivity. I started listening to affirmations when I fall asleep at night. I started, waking up and, move your body, tell yourself how wonderful you are. Stop beating up on yourself. When I tell you to be kind to yourself, I'm literally telling you to be kind to yourself. Tell yourself how wonderful you are. Take yourself out for a pedicure. Go for a walk in nature. Go by yourself to the beach. Like, take care of yourself. Because if you aren't taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. Okay? So I will be getting little bits of information. I've been told where to look and what to look for. So you will be shown the way when you're supposed to see it. And then there's no question. That video that I put out yesterday, when I tell you I know that I know that I know that I know that I know, why do you think I have that 100% surety? I've always been somebody that's questioned myself. I've always questioned everything. And I always asked everybody else for, guidance and, what should I do? Where should I go? What should I look for? I don't have to do that anymore. I got all the answers inside myself. You have all the answers inside of yourself. You just don't. You have to learn to trust your intuition. I'll also teach you how to trust your intuition and what to listen for. The different sensations. I started feeling different sensations in my body as each one of my chakras. That's another word you're going to want to look up. We have 7 chakras. When they're in balance versus when they're out of balance. And whether or not they're activated and opened or blocked. Okay? You have different sensations that you'll start getting in your body. Okay? Tingling sensations, goosebumps. Those aren't just random, okay? There's a reason why you have those. They're supposed to be there to tell you something. When you have an ache or pain, either something is possibly off in your body, okay? Or if you're somebody that is very sensitive to energy, sometimes I've walked into rooms and I have felt the negative energy. And it wasn't my energy. And it was weird because I was like, there's nothing wrong with me. But I started learning that even some people feel the pain literally feel the pain of other people because they're supposed to help them heal. See, that's how I know I'm a healer. I feel people's energies. Okay. I shift energies. I am learning. And just because I tell you I'm fully awakened doesn't mean I completely understand fully how to utilize all these things yet. I'm still learning. Okay. But I take negative energy and I shift it. Okay. I strongly believe that I'm going to have physical healing abilities as well. We'll see. But I definitely can tell you that part of the reason why I feel so drawn to mental and emotional health is because it's a huge energy. Think about when somebody's in a bad mood, they can impact an entire room. That's an energy, guys. We are energetic beings. I want you to start looking up vibration, frequency, vibration, frequency, okay? When I tell you that my frequency is heightened, you will start noticing that your entire atmosphere starts changing, okay? You start elevating. It's really cool. It's really cool. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I'm going to go and I'm going to post those scriptures about the awakening. And it's starting to happen globally, okay? It's going to happen in increments. And there's those of us that are awakened now that are supposed to bring light to these things. That way, when they start happening, you know. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. And like I said, I want you to come and seek advice or go do the research yourself. I swear to you, go ChatGPT or probably another, AI, facet. Just go start searching. Be like, what is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? How does this work? It'll tell you. All the answers are there. And if they're not, it's funny because I would sit down and have conversations with God, like for several hours. Really cool. God uses signs, the way things are positioned in your house. Like I would look across the room and there'd be a bottle sitting there when I'd feel the anxiety start rising in me and it would go chill. Different colors. So each one of your chakras also it corresponds with a color. Okay. If you start noticing colors, pay attention to them. Okay. Pay attention to them. I'm wearing blue right now. Blue actually corresponds, which I see I didn't do this on purpose, responds with communication, the communication chakra. Okay. I'm a communicator. I'm a huge communicator. I love to talk. I got a strong jawline. Start asking the questions. I'll see you on the other side. I'm here though. I know where to direct you. Oh yeah. So I would ask literally a specific, very, very specific question. I did not go looking for a video, and all of a sudden a video popped up and it had the exact answer that I was needing. I think it's cool. This is magic in real life. You want to experience God? You want to experience God the way He really wants you to experience Him? Start asking the questions. He'll answer. I promise. He wants us all near Him. Love you guys.